My name is Kumresh Krishnamurthy. I'm based out of Toronto in Canada. I've been a safe person. You know what I'm trying to say, right? I'm a safe person. So I have to use that word, which means I've been in safe for a while. And I've helped companies in the transformation journey. From waterfall to agile to scaled agile, it has been really wonderful. Okay. People who, if you're not talking, please put yourself on mute. Okay. And that would be really helpful. Otherwise, there is some kind of a disturbance coming in. Thank you. I appreciate that. So my journey started with waterfall. We had a lot of challenges out there, and we moved to agile. And then I was extremely excited with agile because agile has a different way of working. It's extremely powerful, very practical, but it had its own challenges. It had its own challenges, and we wonder why. What are the challenges? Why is that agile not working? So the answer to that question, I believe, is agile always works. The question is, how are you applying agile? Right? How are you applying agile is more important to understand and to embrace agility at its best. And that is where we realize that agile at team level is not enough. And why do you think that statement is true and important? It's because when we think about agile, see, good old days, we were saying that teams, technical teams, you go agile. So the technical teams, and we always thought that agile is only for technical teams because they are delivering the product, they are doing the work, they are the doers, isn't it? And that's where always the focus is. So the technical team needs to be agile. They need to deliver value fast and often. But soon we realized that if we have only the technical team to be agile, there is a big issue with the system, because management is thinking waterfall and the teams are thinking agile, right? And there is a big gap in understanding between these two worlds. So management tells the team that you need to deliver this by this time, go agile. That doesn't make sense. You cannot say that you need to deliver something in a specific period of time. That's not agile. You need to specify what needs to be built and then keep the other section open so that the teams can decide by when can it be built. Or it should be the other way. They need to say that, okay, this is the time period. You tell me, the teams will need to tell how much can they build in a period of time. All right. So just to reiterate, I would like to draw something on the board, but I would have to share the screen. So what do you see right now? Okay, you don't see anything because I've not shared the screen yet. So creating business agility is important. This sharing the screen, hold on. Okay, what I would like to do is share this one. Okay, perfect. So this, you can see the screen, right? You can say yes if you are unmuted. Okay. Okay, perfect, great, thanks. All right, now I'm going to draw something and you tell me if you can see that as well. All right, so I have the pen and this is what the idea is. There are, in the waterfall world, we always understand there are three very important, what do you call it, constraints to be successful. Okay, and the three important constraints are scope, all right, time, and cost, isn't it? These are the three most important constraints every company needs to have. But in the waterfall world, what we do is we always try to keep the scope, which is fixed. All right, scope is fixed, and then you estimate the other two factors. Okay, sorry that the lines are straight, but that's okay, right? Think about this. Okay, so the scope is fixed, but the teams are expected to estimate the time and the cost. This is how waterfall worked, isn't it? And this is what we call it, the waterfall way of thinking. But the agile way of thinking is different. Now, when I talk about agile way of thinking, we need to understand what exactly does agile do. Agile just reverses this triangle. It's another way of thinking. It's a way of thinking. So what does agile say is, it says this: you need to fix the time and cost, and you need to estimate how much you can do in that period of time. This is agile way of thinking. I'm sure many of you already are aware of this one, but this is where the difference is. Agile is not rocket science, it's just the mindset that has to change. All right, so what do you mean by this statement? This means that when I say the time is fixed, I talk about sprints. In Agile, we talk about 2-week sprints, 2-week sprints, 2-week sprints. I mean, in an average, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, and all those things. But SAFe, by the way, SAFe recommends a 2-week sprint. And you may wonder why. Why does SAFe recommend a 2-week sprint? Because Scrum says that the sprint could be anywhere from 1 week to 4 weeks, isn't it? But SAFe recommends a 2-week sprint because SAFe believes that shorter the cycles, faster the learning. This statement is very important. Shorter the cycles, faster the learning. That is why 2 weeks is short enough to deliver good value, and there will be fast learning as well. If it is 1 week, it is too short. You cannot deliver enough value in 1 week. If it is 3 weeks, it's too long, right? And that is why 2 weeks is ideal. So SAFe recommends a 2-week cycle. All right. Cost has to be fixed as well. So in 2 weeks, keeping the cost fixed. What I mean is, we know what kind of resources do we need. We know what kind of equipments, what kind of supplies, what kind of materials do we need in these 2 weeks, which means cost is pretty much known, isn't it? There will be some variables here and there. That's okay. But keeping these two fixed, we will be able to estimate the scope. This is where the teams come in, and the teams will say, keeping this time in mind, keeping the cost in mind, keeping these resources in mind, how much work can we actually deliver? And this is why it is called cross-functional, self-organizing, self-managing teams. And that is extremely powerful. But the challenge is this: management say that no, you need to deliver all these things because we have a milestone. So this is where there is a big gap between thinking. You know, when the teams or management of companies say that we are agile, but truly, if you think about this, they are not agile, they are fragile, isn't it? They are not agile, they are fragile, which means business is still thinking in a waterfall fashion and teams are expected to deliver in an agile fashion. There is a lot of frustration in both ends. And that is why SAFe has come as a blessing in disguise. And this is when we need to understand that agility cannot be limited to the team level. Agility has to be throughout the enterprise. And that's why we call it business agility. Business agility throughout the enterprise. And this is why SAFe has come as a blessing in disguise to bridge the gap between management and the teams and to deliver full value to the customer end to end. All right. And that's what we are going to do a deep dive to understand what exactly I mean by these. All right. So I'm just going to erase these drawings. And I hope we have set the stage to do a deep dive to understand what exactly it is. All right. Okay. So Mik Kersten has always said this, okay, and this is very important statement. Those who master the large-scale software delivery will define the economic landscape of the 21st century. Okay, there have been multiple technological revolutions in the past, right? You already know these things, and today we are in another technological revolution. See, a lot of times people say that Agile is only for IT companies. Agile is only for IT companies, IT companies, IT companies. But think about this. Every company today is a software company. Every single company is a software company, irrespective of their domain, irrespective of their sectors. Is it a private sector? Is it a public sector? Is it a non-profit organization, government organization, profit-making companies? Doesn't matter. Is it healthcare? Is it manufacturing? Is it real estate? Doesn't matter. Every company is a software company. And why do I say that? And that's because of one reason, and that is called digital revolution. So that's what is happening here. There is a huge digital revolution which is happening today, and that's the technological revolution which is today happening. The question is, how are the companies doing? Do they recognize there is a need for change? Do they recognize they need to go digital? Do they recognize there is a need for them to deliver value to the customer faster than before? Right? So this is where we need to understand and recognize the examples we have had in the past. Look at these examples. BMW's group CEO expects that in the future, more than half of its R&D staff will be software developers. Amazon and Whole Foods merger to introduce cross-platform selling and lower prices. The market cap of Tesla now exceeds the market cap of Ford. In fact, recently, if you remember, it has exceeded the market cap of Toyota. All right. And what about Tesla as a car? Tesla is a technology company. It's not a car manufacturing company. It's all about technology filled in a car, right? The last is my favorite. Apple is now the biggest watchmaker in the world. Now, when you think about this, Apple is now the biggest watchmaker in the world. Good old days, we used to love the mechanics of how a watch operates, how the watch works, isn't it? The gears, the duration of the gears moving at that particular pace so that the time is met. It's amazing to when we used to look at those mechanics. It was it was an engineering marvel, isn't it? But today, who cares about that? Now everything is digital, right? So Apple, everything has become digital, so nobody cares about those gears and those systems, the mechanics of the watch. And that's how the world is going, unfortunately. But that's the thing. So competing the age of software, the problem with our organization realizing that they need to transform. The problem is that the organizations are using managerial frameworks and infrastructure models from past revolutions to manage their business in this one. So every company has realized they need to change. But what are they doing for the change to be applicable? They are still using models and infrastructures and managerial frameworks from the past revolution. And that is why we need to understand, how do we rethink the organization needs to work? So John Cotter talks about the world is now changing at a rate at which the basic system structures and cultures over the demands placed on them. So what do they need to do is the question, right? This is where the difference happens. This one, it's very important for you to understand this basic concept. Now, when a company is small, think about this. When a company is small, it's a startup company. Every single person in the company works only for one thing, and that is customer centricity, customer centricity, customer centricity. That's it. Everyone wants to make sure you deliver true value to the customer fast. All right. And that is called the network. So look at this. This is the network we are talking about. So doesn't matter the designation you have in the company, the CEO of the company, the developer, the tester, the vice president or the managers, even the janitor of the company is working towards customer centricity. So they are all focused on working together as a cohesive unit to deliver true value to the customer. But as the company grows, now look at this, what happens. As the company grows, what is introduced? We add hierarchy for stability and execution. Now this is going to be a problem. Why? See, having hierarchy is good because we need stability. When the company is small, the work is not, the kind of customers is limited. The number of customers is limited, the number of jobs are limited. But as the company starts growing, the complexity grows, the number of questions, in the number of employees starts growing. You need to hire specialists. You need to hire, subject matter experts. You need to start forming a company in the form of departments. You need to start building departments. This is HR, this is marketing, this is sales department, this is finance department. So the whole company starts getting built in a hierarchical fashion for stability and execution. People will start coming up with policies and procedures as well. So we need to understand these are the policies every company, every team member needs to understand. These are the procedures that they need to follow, and so on and so forth. There will be a lot of bureaucracy. There will be a lot of constraints which is built in. But still, the network probably is still active. But as the company starts growing higher and higher, this is what happens. The hierarchy takes over. The hierarchy takes over and the network, boom, gone. I'll give you a simple example. Think about this. When a company is small, all right, a startup company, and you're delivering value to the customer. If the customer says that this is good, can you please make change to this, this, and this? When a company is small, the person will say absolutely no problem. Every single person will be ready to help the customer to deliver full value, isn't it? So if the customer is asking for a change, they will say that sure, no problem, we will make the change and you should be getting the change in the next 2 days. That is customer centricity. But when the company starts becoming, growing and growing, becoming really big, when the customer says that, you know what, I like the product, but can you please make a change to this, this, and this? What will they say? When the company is big, they will say that, oh yeah, okay, these changes are fine, but you need to raise a change request. It has to go through a change, management process, right? Configuration management, change management, all those things. The process is defined, and they will say that, oh, it has to go through CCB, Change Control Board. They will have to approve it, and then only the change will happen. Oh, of course. Did I mention that you have to pay for the change, right? So all those things is going to happen when the company starts growing, isn't it? Don't you agree with that? This is what I say, that customer centricity is out of the window when the company starts really growing. So what do we do? What is the solution? The solution is this. Solution is not to trash what we know and start over, but instead to reintroduce a second system which would be familiar to most successful entrepreneurs. We need something called a dual operating system. This is called the dual operating system. This is business agility. When we talk about business agility, we need both sectors to be present. We need the network which focuses on customer centricity and they deliver speed of innovation. We need hierarchy which provides efficiency and stability at that level as well. So we need a combination of both to make sure the company is stable and delivers value to customers. And that is what SAFe introduces. So when you look at SAFe, it's a combination of value stream network and the functional hierarchy which is required. So SAFe is kind of reigniting the value stream network which has gone missing. All right. So this is what I wanted to show. All right. So now let's understand what exactly is business agility. And what do I mean that SAFe is reigniting the network? Okay, so this is where I want to make sure you understand the big picture, the framework, right? And we are going to talk about the framework right now. By the way, if you are new to SAFe, you have to go through this website, scaledagileFramework.com. Do you see that? ScaledagileFramework.com. It's a fantastic website where everything is there. You can look at this big picture, but every item in this big picture is clickable. You can click and read a lot about it. Okay, so just make a note of this website, ScaledAgileFramework.com. Now, SAFe brings back the focus to what it takes to bring great solutions to the marketplace. And that's what we are talking about, business agility. Achieving a state of business agility means that the entire organization, not just development, is engaged in continually and proactively delivering value or innovative business solutions faster than the competition. All right. And that's when we talk about all these things in the big picture. We talk about agile for development, agile for finance, agile for HR, agile for marketing, agile for legal, agile for operations. Every single space of the company needs to think agile. They need to understand agile. They need to deliver in an agile fashion. It requires that everyone involved in delivering business solutions use lean agile practices. This is the power of business agility, not just team level agility. Okay. Now, before I move on to the big picture and explain what SAFE is, I just wanted to open the forum for any quick questions you may have out here. Okay, please, any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask. If there are too many questions, then I will request you to park it for later. But do you have any questions now? Okay, nothing. All right, 5 seconds and then I'll move on. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, moving on. Awesome, this is good. Now, before I go on, I wanted to ask, what's the difference between doing agile and being agile? All right, now think about these two keywords: doing agile and being agile. All right, so the difference is this: when you talk about, say, we are doing agile, which means you're just doing it because someone else asked you to do it. You're doing it because your neighbors are doing it. You're doing because your manager asked you to, go agile. You're doing it because otherwise you will not get a job. You're doing it because you think you will be left out for whatever reasons, right? And that is the difference. Doing agile is you're just doing it without understanding the why behind it. Why is agile important? Why are you applying agile? Why is daily stand-up required? Why is sprint planning needed? The question of why has to be answered. And that's when, once you start, see, when we talk about agile, what is agile? When we say, okay, let's be agile, what exactly do you mean by the word agile? It means you deliver value to the customer fast. It means you deliver highest value to the customer fast in small iterations, which means you take constant feedback from the customer to understand if this is what they need. Is there any changes required, right? Are we meeting are we meeting your needs? Is it serving your purpose? You need to constantly check with the customer, and we need to do that with a change mindset, which means if customer says, sorry, I gave you these requirements, but I changed my mind, and you should say, no problem, tell me what you need. That kind of a mindset is required. So agile is nothing but a set of principles and value statements. If you go to agilemanifesto.org, you will look at a set of value statements and principles. The important thing is how many of us have actually gone through these principles and statements to understand what exactly agility is. And do you understand the why behind the work that you're doing? Because unless you look through the core values, and unless you look through the principles, unless you understand them, the most important thing is unless you believe in them, you will not be truly agile. You're just doing agile, not being agile. So the difference between doing agile and being agile is that in being agile, you understand these principles, you understand the value statements, you understand the purpose, you understand the why, and not just understand, you believe in them. Once you believe in them, then you start applying all the decisions that you're doing at work will be based on these principles that you believe in. I always feel agile makes you a psychologist, because it's all about common sense, how you think, how you behave, how you perceive a particular action. And that's what, unless you believe in these principles and value statements, you will not be truly agile. That's a given, right? So now let's get into this one. Business agility, right? As you can see, this is the big picture, and I'm going to describe this big picture for you to understand better. Okay. Now, this is the biggest change in the latest version of SAFe, which is 5.0. When we talk about SAFe 5.0, this has been introduced. Business agility. This is the focus. So, in case you're giving an exam on SAFe, questions on business agility. So that is why I thought that this webinar will be useful for all of you. All right, so let's do a deep dive to understand what SAFe is. All right. Okay. So the next 20-30 minutes is going to be extremely important for you to understand SAFe if you're new to SAFe. All right. So I hope I have your attention out here. Okay. So let's go through this. First and foremost, how many layers are there in this framework? How many layers are there? Come on, say it out loud. If you want, you can unmute yourself and say it out loud. This will make it interactive. All right, but don't take too much time. How many layers do you see?
6.
There are 3 layers. Okay, it's okay to be wrong. Doesn't matter. We are all learning out here. There are 3 layers. Okay, so I'll show you the layers: portfolio, large solution, and essential. These are the 3 most important layers of SAFe. Okay, now that is the first thing that you need to understand. But we also need to understand that these 3 layers are there for a purpose, because every organization is different, every company is different, and the way they operate is different. So the reason it has kind of layered out is mainly because every company will decide, do they need all the 3 layers? Maybe not. Do they need 2 layers? Maybe yes. Do they need 1 layer? Yeah, probably yes. So this is why it's very easily customizable for companies to adapt and adopt SAFe. All right. So that is the first reason. Now, out of these 3 layers, which layer do you think is mandatory? Which layer is mandatory, without which you cannot scale agile using SAFe?
Essential.
Essential. There you go. Absolutely. The name itself gives it away, isn't it? Essential is essential, which means the other 2 are not essential. Of course, they are not essential, right? They don't have the word essential out there. So how can they be essential? So anyway, so we have essential as an essential layer. The other 2 layers are not essential, which means they are optional. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is that when you have decided to scale using SAFe, that's when you need to understand that this layer or the components of this layer has to be implemented. Other 2 layers you don't have to implement first. Maybe later on you want to decide to have them, no problem. Okay, so that is the first thing you need to know. Now let's do a deep dive to understand what is essential. All right, now if you understand essential, then probably you will be able to understand, I would say, more than 80% of SAFe. Okay, so I know we just have probably around 30 minutes to go, but few things that you need to make a note of are these, right? Now, before I go to essential, couple of things: competencies and spanning palette. Few things that you need to be aware of. The one on the left side of the screen, there are 6 core competencies. And the 7th core competency is below, which is Lean-Agile leadership. So in total, in SAFe, there are 7 core competencies, which is important for you to measure success and progress of agility throughout the enterprise, not just at the team level, throughout the enterprise. See, we can say that, oh, our enterprise is agile, yeah, we are all agile. You can say that, but how do you measure it? It's important to measure that, isn't it? And that is why you need these core competencies. And these core competencies will guide you through to understand how do you measure your success and where do you want to go. All right. So, and then on the right side, this is the spanning palette, which talks about the vision, the roadmap, the milestones. Every company needs to have that, right? The continued COP is community of practice, and so on and so forth. So that is one thing you need to focus on. These are the 2 new core competencies, which is there in SAFe, but I'm going to focus on the one. Hold on. What I'm going to do is, can you still see my screen? Okay, you can. So All right. This is the site I was talking about. Now, there are 3 layers and there are 4 configurations. Do you see on the top, right? There are 3 layers, which is portfolio, large solution, and essential. And there are 4 configurations. Now, how do you have these 4 configurations? Based on the combination of these layers, the configurations are defined. For example, if I go to essential configuration, which will have only essential layer, it will not have the other 2 layers. If I go to large solution configuration, it will have only essential and large solution layer. It will not have portfolio layer. If I go to portfolio configuration, it will have only essential and portfolio layer. It will not have large solution layer. And if I go to full configuration, it will have all the 3 layers. Okay, this is how you need to read this, understand this. And that is why I said, if you noticed, all the configurations have essential as one of the layers. It is mandatory. The other 2 are optional. Okay, so the combination of these will define what it is. Okay, so I'm going to very quickly go through this. I have lots to share. The only issue is time. Okay, so I need to be mindful of the time. I need to respect the time that you are giving us as well. Right, so let's look at SAFe. Essential SAFe. Okay, now what I'm going to do for you to understand this better, I'm going to divide essential into 2 sub layers. Okay, so stay with me, ask me any questions you have. All right, so I'm going to divide this into 2 sub layers. Okay, so I'm going to do it this way. This way, all right. Okay, so you can see my beautiful line, right? Oh no, it's not a straight line, sorry about that, but this is intentional. I can draw a straight line if you want, but this is intentional. All right, now let's talk about the layer below this line. The layer below the line is called team layer. The layer above this line is called program layer. Okay, please make sure you understand this part. SAFe 5.0 does not divide it as team and program, all right? But I am going to do it so that you understand things better, okay? So the previous versions of SAFe actually had divided essential into team and program. But the latest version of SAFe, which is 5.0, they have combined team and program together and they call it essential, okay? But I would still like to divide it this way so that understanding is very important, okay? Clarity of thought. This provides clarity of thought. Now, let's focus at the team level right now. All right, let's focus only at the team level. Forget the program level. Now, for every company to be successful, remember this, for every company to be successful, they need to focus on 3 areas: functional, technical, and process. If you can focus on these 3 areas, the company will be successful. All right, so when you talk about these 3 areas, we need to have 3 specialist roles in these 3 areas as well, isn't it? So if you talk about team level, we have specialist roles for these 3 levels or these 3 areas. When you talk about functional, who takes care of functional? The product owner takes care of functional. Who takes care of technical? The team who does the work, they take care of technical. Who takes care of the process? The Scrum Master takes care of the process, right? So there are 3 specialist roles for these 3 core areas to make sure the value is delivered to the customers in its entirety. All right, so there is the first thing you need to probably understand. The combination of all these 3 roles is called agile teams. The combination of all these 3 roles is called agile teams. All right, now what is the backlog at the team level called? Come on, you know the answer. What is the backlog at the team level called? The backlog. There you go. Exactly. The backlog at the team level is called team backlog. What else? Right? The name has to be team backlog. What else? So the team backlog. See, in Scrum, we call it product backlog, but in SAFe, we call it team backlog. All right. The same thing. No difference. All right. Now, what does the team backlog contain? The team backlog contains requirements. The team backlog contains work items that needs to be delivered. But in the form of what? What do you call the work items in the team backlog? What do you call them?
User
stories. Exactly. So you look at this. It has got stories, and there is one more thing. It has got enablers as well. Do you look at this? Do you see this? So stories and enablers. These are enablers. Maybe it is too small for you to read, but remember, this is an enabler. Now, Everyone, probably you all understand what a story means. A story, a user story, is a functional requirement from the user's perspective, isn't it? So a story is a functional requirement from the user's perspective. That is why you write it from the user's perspective as well. As a user, I want something so that these are the benefits. So this is always from the user's perspective, from the actor's perspective. Now, that is a story. But what are enablers? Enablers enable the story to be complete. What I mean is, enabler can be considered technical stories. All right. So when we talk about stories, for example, oh, you know what, the user will say, I want to build a homepage. All right, a beautiful homepage. This has to be the color. This has to be the links and all those things. Perfect. Great. We understand your requirements. Don't worry. But if the homepage is built really well, but it's going to take 5 minutes to load, do you think the customer is going to be happy about that? Of course not, right? So we need to talk about the non-functional requirements as well. The NFRs, you look at this. This is the NFR. Sorry, I just put a line over that. So this is the non-functional requirements, which means we talk about performance, we talk about security, we talk about stability, we talk about accessibility, we talk about scalability, we talk about serviceability, availability, all the ETs, right? All the ETs plus performance, or you can call it performanceability as well if you want. Okay, so we have all these enablers to be built. All right, perfect. So all these non-functional requirements can be considered to be enablers. Okay, but what about the infrastructure? What about, you know, the network that needs to be ready? What about the you know, the environment? You know, we need to have the environment in place. We need to have the network in place. We need to have the database in place. We need to have the data in the database as well. What about those? Oh yeah, those needs to be included as well, isn't it? So those are enablers as well. All right, perfect. But what about documentation? Oh, what about compliance? Right? Oh yeah, those things have to be considered as well. So yes, those are also enablers. But what about you know, prototypes, proof of concept, spikes, research? Maybe you're not sure about the solution, you want to try it out, but that trial requires some effort. Oh yeah, those have to be considered too. So yes, those are enablers as well. So basically there are 4 types of enablers. All right, infrastructure, architecture, compliance, and exploration. These are the 4 types of enablers that you need to be aware of. Okay, so all those are part of this backlog. So stories and enablers are part of this backlog, and the teams will start working either using Scrum and Kanban to start delivering value. Now they start delivering value in a particular increment. That increment is called iterations. It is same as sprints in Scrum. In Scrum, you call it sprints, but in SAFe, we call it iterations. Iterations, iterations, however you pronounce it, doesn't matter, right? The same thing. All right. So these groups, you know, the agile teams will look at this team backlog and they will build the team backlog. And this is when we need to understand. So we understand the team backlog contains stories and enablers. We understand what stories and enablers are, but who comes up with these stories and enablers? And that's what we need to understand, that product owners will own the team backlog. Okay. It's very much like Scrum, no difference in that. So the product owners usually come up with the stories. The enablers usually, the teams will come up with enablers, because product owners, they are not technical, right? They are not supposed to be technical. If they have technical knowledge, it's a good thing, but they are not supposed to be technical. They focus from the business perspective. Okay, so the technical teams usually will build the enablers, and of course, with collaboration with the product owners, they will have this backlog developed. Okay, built. All right. So I believe you understand the team level, which is very similar to what Scrum has to offer. Okay. Now I'll give you a scenario. You go to the team, you would go to the business, and the business will ask, okay, how well the teams are doing? And you will say that the teams are not doing as well. And the business will ask, what happened? You are all agile, isn't it? Why the business are not doing, I mean, why the teams are not doing well? So you will say that, oh, the teams are not doing well. We are agile, we are fully agile, but the teams are not doing well because the work has become complex. Oh my God, the work has become complex. Oh my God, what do we do? So that's where you will say that, okay, the work has become complex, so we need to scale. Haha. That's when you introduce the program layer. When you say you want to scale using SAFe, you will introduce the program layer. All right. So scaling happens when the work is complex. All right. So that is the first thing. But how do you know the work is complex? Your definition of complexity is different than my definition of complexity, isn't it? So how do you know the work is complex? And this is where we have to come up with a ballpark figure. And SAFe says that with complexity comes resources. More the complexity, more the resources. All right. So if you have around 50, this is the number which SAFe recommends. If you have 50 to 125, 5 is not the best. All right. If you have 50 to 125 plus people working together to build the system, build the product, that's when we know it's time to scale. All right. That's when we know it's time for us to introduce the program layer. Okay. This doesn't mean that if you have, see, it says 50 to 125. This doesn't mean if you have 49 people, you'll say that, oh, I just missed it. That's not what it is, right? So you decide, your company, you decide, even if you have 30 people, you can scale. Even if you have 20 people, you can scale. But the important thing is, when you scale, when you introduce the program layer, you need to realize that you need to spend some money because you introduce 3 more layers. So scaling comes with an expense. So it has to make sense for you to scale, right? So the program layer introduces 3 more layers. Sorry, the program layer introduces 3 more roles. Again, they correspond to functional, technical, and process as well, isn't it? So who takes care of the functional? The product management. They take care of the functional. Who takes care of technical? The system architect. Who takes care of the process? RTE stands for release train engineer. RTE is release train engineer. All right. So that's where, yeah. So what's an RTE? What's an RTE? What's their responsibilities, right? So RTE is Scrum Master on steroids. You can say that, isn't it? They are chief Scrum Masters. So whatever Scrum Masters do at the team level, the RT will do the same thing at the program level. And that is what you need to understand. It's very important to have these 3 roles defined at every single level of SAFe. Okay. So now we understand that the backlog at the team level is called team backlog. What is the backlog at the program level called?
Program backlog.
Thank you. Yes, it is program backlog. Yes. Now the program backlog. Now team backlog contains stories and enablers. What does the program backlog contain?
Features.
There you go. Absolutely, Nikhil. Thank you. So features, you can look at this, and enablers. Oh, I should have used a different color, but that's okay. Okay. So the program backlog uses features and enablers. Right. Now, what are features? Features are collection of stories which are related to each other. That's the idea. Right? Clarity of thought. Again, I'm just focusing on the important things which is important for your understanding. Features are a collection of stories which are related to each other. Okay. So basically features can be broken down into smaller requirements in the form of stories. And that's what it is. Now, the team backlog is owned by product owner. Who owns the program backlog? Who owns the program backlog?
Product manager.
Product management, isn't it? The product manager, exactly. So the product owner owns the team backlog, the product manager owns the program backlog, as simple as that. Remember this thing. The product owners are team centric, whereas product management, they are business centric, customer centric. All right. So that is the main difference between these 2 layers. Okay. Now the cadence or the increments at the team level is called iterations. The increments at the program level is called program increment, PI. That's what in short we call it PI, which is program increment. Okay, now what is program increment? I'll just change the color so that you can understand this better. We just have some more time. Okay, remember this. This is one PI. This is another PI. Okay, so the idea is program increment is a duration of time which is bigger than 2 weeks. Okay, so increments, when we talk about team level iterations, team level increments, it is 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. But when we talk about program level increments, we talk it about 1 quarter. So one PI can be considered 1 quarter. Okay, it's around 1 quarter. It could be 8 to 12 weeks, but maximum usually it doesn't go beyond a quarter. All right. Now, how many iterations are there within a PI? So look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you see this? There are 5 iterations within a PI. I don't like to call it 5. I like to call it 4 plus 1. Why 4 plus 1? That's because the plus 1 is called IP. Look at this. It is called IP iteration. Right? IP stands for innovation and planning. IP stands for innovation and planning. Okay, so this is innovation and planning is one of the most important things for SAFe. Okay, this iteration you will do innovation. You will come up with new ideas and you will plan for the next PI. So the PI, okay, so the planning for the next PI happens during this iteration as well. Okay, now the first ceremony of a sprint is called sprint planning meeting. What is the first ceremony for a PI? It is
PI planning.
Isn't it? What else? PI planning itself. So sprint planning, sometimes which is in Scrum, we call it PI planning in SAFe. By the way, we in SAFe we try not to use Scrum terms, especially from exam perspective. Okay, that's why sprints are called iterations. Product backlog is called team backlog, and so on and so forth. Right. So especially from exam perspective. Okay, so this is what we have. So this is the idea. Now, when do we introduce a program layer? We have all these things in place, and this is extremely important. PI planning is the heart and soul of SAFe. If you don't do PI planning well, the whole SAFe, the whole PI goes for a toss. So that is why PI planning is extremely important for you to have. Okay. So usually in our certification classes and all those things we explain, and we do a simulation on how exactly do you have to do PI planning. We show it practically and simulate it to have an effective PI planning session. Okay, so all those things are important for you. Okay, now this is going to be very important at the program level. It is called Agile Release Train. Agile Release Train, ART. Now the question is, who is on board this train? And the answer to that question is everyone. Who is on board? Everyone is on board. So what do they do? So see, at the team level, we say the team has to be cross-functional, isn't it? Which means the developer has to be there, the tester has to be there, and so on and so forth. Everyone who is required to complete the work should be part of the team. Similarly, in the train, we need every single person who is a stakeholder to deliver value fully to the customer, end to end. And the value stream is where this concept comes in from. So when we talk about Agile Release Train, every single stakeholder, if you are the stakeholder for delivering the product to the customer, for delivering value to the customer, you better be part of this train, which means it's the technical folks, it's the testers, developers, architects, plus it is the business customers, it is also the infrastructure team, the support team, the operation team, plus the ethical team, the legal team, the finance, the HR, the sales, marketing, you name it. If you are a stakeholder, you better be part of this train, because you want everyone to be coming under the same roof, understanding each other and deliver value to the customer in its entirety. Now, a lot of times what happens is this, at least I've seen this, I'm sure you would have seen this as well. The sales team will go and pitch something to the customers, and the sales team will sell something and the customer will accept it, buy it, and the sales teams will say that, yay, we got the project. And the development team, okay, what is the project? And the sales team will say that, okay, you need to deliver all these things by this particular time. And the development team will say, this is impossible. This is not, we cannot do this. And the sales team will say that, oh, that's your problem. We got the customer for you. Now you have to deliver it. Whatever it is required, you do it. And then there is conflicts. Then there are issues. Then there are challenges. Why did that happen? That's because the sales team is only thinking from their perspective. They are not thinking they don't have the holistic picture of what is doable, what is not. They will sell something. They just want business. But the onus to deliver it remains on the development team and the architects, and that becomes very difficult. And that is why we want to have every single person who is involved in delivering value to the customer end to end to be part of this train, so that they can collaboratively work together to deliver true value to the customer. All right, and that is the highlight of business agility, not just team level agility. All right. Now, just to make sure you have the whole picture very quickly, I'm just going to go together on the other aspects as well. I'm just keeping a watch on the time as well, right? So the next is, remember this. All right, I'm going to full configuration now. Now this train has a capacity. What is the capacity of this train? Do you remember the number? 50 to 125 plus. That is the, isn't it? That's when we scale, isn't it? To the program level. So 50 to 125 plus is the capacity of this train. Now, if you have 150 people, if you have 200 people, if you have 300 people, then what do? This train has a capacity of around 125 plus. Okay. You cannot go to the roof of the train or hang out of the doors and the window of the train. You know, some of you, I know you're smiling inside, you know what I'm talking about. So this train, the doors will close, right? You cannot have more people come in. So if you have 150, 200, 300 people, then what do? So the answer is you scale further up. That's when you introduce the large solution layer. That's when you introduce the large solution layer, which means you introduce multiple trains. So Essential will have only one train. Remember that Essential will have only one train, but large solution can have multiple trains, and those multiple trains are called large solution or solution train. Okay, solution train is a combination of multiple agile release trains, and there has to be collaboration between them, making sure, but remember this, that all the trains have to collaborate to deliver the same product to the customer. If the trains are delivering different products and they are not related to each other, then they don't need large solution. They can have their own separate essential layers, right? They don't need to have large solution. But if there is collaboration which is required between the trains, then you need to introduce a large solution wherein the collaboration happens between these trains and you have the right people in place. Again, the three roles come in: solution architect, solution management, STE. STE stands for solution train engineer. Okay, and they are all work together to build the backlog at the solution level, which is called solution backlog. And what does the solution backlog contain? It contains capabilities and enablers. Okay, so all these things, it's very important for you to gather and understand. Okay, so this is large solution very briefly. Now we introduce the next layer, which is the portfolio layer, the last part before we move on to questions. Okay, this portfolio layer is where we need, this doesn't mean that the work is more complex, we introduce a portfolio layer. No. The number of level of complexity is I mean, it ends out here at the large solution layer. It doesn't matter how complex it is. You can keep adding n number of trains at the large solution layer. But the portfolio layer is important to create that kind of a visibility to the teams and the customers, right? So this is where we understand what is the vision of the company. We need to understand what is the strategy of the company, what are the strategic themes you come up with. Based on that, you will come up with something like a portfolio vision. This portfolio can have multiple value streams, you know, and this is where we need to understand that the backlog at the portfolio level is called portfolio backlog, right? And what does the portfolio backlog contain? It contains epics and enablers. This is important for you to know. That's because a lot of people get confused when they look at Jira. They will think, oh, Jira Epic is very different than this Epic. Yes, it is. It is. Don't look at Jira. Forget about that. So Epic in Safe is different than what Jira talks about. So this, it creates visibility all the way till the top. Now look at this. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you understand this part before we move on to questions. All right, if you introduce the whole thing, we have something called a V model. V model means we understand how the requirement comes from the top and how it is delivered from the bottom. How is the requirements coming from the top and how it is delivered from the bottom? This is the V model. V is for value. We want to deliver full value. So we need to know that there has to be, everything starts with a strategic theme. From the theme, you come up with epics. Epics are further broken down into capabilities. Capabilities are further broken down into features. Features are further broken down into stories. And that is how you deliver value to the customer. Make sense? All right. So this is where I want to make sure. But of course, you need to remember how many layers are there. If you don't have large solution layer, then epics are broken down directly into features. Right? And that is also something you need to be aware of. All right. So with that, I have lots to cover. I mean, cover in the sense share, but then because of time constraints, I want to respect that. I just wanted to open this forum for any questions you have. Yes.
Yeah, so this is Nikhil here. So
Yes.
for each level, we have epic and capability, feature, and story, but enabler that remain constant. So how do we distinguish for each level? What is that?
The terminology is like at the portfolio, you have portfolio level epics or enablers. Okay, so portfolio enablers, solution enablers, you can call it that way as well. So the understanding is more important than naming, right? If the enabler is really big, then it will be at the portfolio level. Then you can break it into smaller enablers at different levels. So they are not.
Yeah. So, yeah, sir. Can you just give some layman example of enabler? Because Epic, I can understand like you to be like the user story, like in simple English language, but enabler, I am still not able to
Enablers,
understand.
see, at the portfolio level, if you want to go cloud solution, all right, okay, let's go cloud, let's go on-prem. All right, so that is a strategy, technical strategy, isn't it? So that becomes an enabler. So for
Okay, sir.
to go and on, enabler at the portfolio level, which is cloud, then you have to break it into smaller pieces. What exactly we need to do, right? So that's why you have smaller enablers. Make sense, Nikhil?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Hey, Kumaresh, the product owner, the business analyst and the product owner, are they one and the same? Because
please repeat
they are the
that?
ones
Sorry.
who write the stories, right?
So can you repeat, Sunil?
So the product owner and the business analyst, are they the same? Because they are the ones who write the stories, right?
Good question, good question. So product owners and business analysts are the same. See, there is no role called a business analyst in either Scrum or in Safe. All right. So the idea is we need to understand the responsibilities more than the designation. So product owners are, they represent the customers and they write the stories. So if business analyst does that work, then they are pretty much doing the work of a product owner. So yes, you can consider them to be the same. Yes, absolutely. See, one more thing just to add to that.
Sure. Go ahead.
Right. One more thing is, what should be the ratio between a product owner and the team? So ideally, the ratio has to be 1:1 or 1:2. All right. So what I mean is, every team should have at least one product owner. I mean, not at least, they need to have one product owner, which means, but practically, when you look at companies, a lot of times a product owner is a product owner for multiple teams, isn't it? And this is where business analysts play a vital role because they are part of the team. So they help the teams understand the requirements better. So they play a proxy to the product owner.
Got it. So they need not necessarily be the business user itself, right? Like they
No.
can be a representation or a proxy. So somebody like a contractor can be a product owner, right? They just have to understand the business and write the requirements.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank
Every
you.
company, their strategies are different, but absolutely, Sunil, what you said is right.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay,
Yeah,
by the
hi,
way, I
Sumedh
can
here.
see before I take the next question, I can see few people are logging off. So guys, if you want to leave, you can, but I will just share my email just in case you wanna you have any questions. I'm putting it on chat. Okay, and I'm also going to put my LinkedIn in case you want to connect, you want to have any questions, you want to have any conversations. We can connect as well. By the way, today, hold on just a minute. I'm just getting the link from my. There you go. Where is the chat? Oh, there it is. Okay, that's my LinkedIn. And today we are going to have actually a webinar. Oh, you can see my screen as well. Oh, perfect. I didn't know that. Haha, you should tell me. So we are going to have a webinar here. You can see my screen, right? So today, again, we are having a webinar with IBC. The topic is jobs in Agile and DevSecOps. So me and Wiselin, we are going to be the speaker, and we are going to share. So feel free to join. It is there in my LinkedIn. Okay, you know what I'll do? I'll give the registration link right now for you to. It's all free. We are just going to help people in their journey to be safe.
That is in PST time, right?
Yes, PST time, 4 to 5 PST. Yes. All right. Sorry. I had some more questions coming through. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Sumedh here.
Yes, Sumit.
Yeah, so what if the program is not in sync, like they are not in sync for some reason? So, how do we come up with this challenge in SAFe? Like sometimes it may happen that one team or another team may not be in sync to achieve the respective goal. So, is it possible, like in SAFe, to meet such circumstances?
Okay, I was trying to understand your question, Sumit. Your voice was slightly breaking off. But you're saying that if the teams are not in sync in a PI, then what happens? Am I right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's a good question, actually. The thing is this. Now, I'll give you a simple scenario here. If I'm building a house, okay? So Sumedh, your team is building the windows, Nikhil's team is building the doors, Sunil's team is building the roof. You are building different components. And you show me the windows, how strong the window is. Look at this, it is nice and big, and there is, it's energy efficient and so on and so forth, right? I'll say that, yeah, the window looks great, but what about the house? As a customer, I will ask that question. And Nikhil will ask, look at the door, how strong it is. It is fireproof, it is theft proof. Look at these things. Oh, fantastic. The door looks good, but what about the house? So as a customer, I'm more interested in the house, the product, rather than the components of the product. So it's very important, if the teams have to be truly agile, they have to integrate every iteration if possible. Okay, they have to be in sync. They have to start at the same time. They have to run together. They have to end at the same time and integrate, which means if the decision is to go 2 weeks, every team should have the same cadence of 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Not only that, they need to start at the same time. For example, they start on a Wednesday and end on a Tuesday. So every team needs to have that kind of a cadence so that they can sync up and integrate every single iteration. If they don't do that, then true agility is difficult. Having said that, Theoretically, this may sound okay, but practically you need DevOps. You need strong DevOps pipeline in place. You need CI/CD pipeline in place. Otherwise, integration at the end of every iteration becomes impossible. Automation has to be there, right? And that is why DevOps is core to being truly agile. Does it help?
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic.
Thanks. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Hi, Komresh. I hope you can.
Yes. Hi, Musa.
Yeah, I had actually posted my question.
Oh, you did?
But yeah, I hope you can hear me clearly.
Okay, there is a question which is posted. All right. Oh, I didn't notice there are quite a few questions posted. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let me thank you for the questions. Oh, I just realized quite a few questions. Louis, will we be getting the copies of the slides? Okay. So Louis has left actually. Okay. Is there a presentation we should be seeing on our, okay, these are the before, yes, okay. Can companies, okay. Who's I see your, can companies that are traditionally project-based be agile? Their operations are set up to deliver water projects, waterfall projects, like construction projects. These projects can only be done using waterfall. Oh, that's a brilliant question, Musa. So this is my take on it. All right. So now, what I would say is this. Not every company or every project is agileable. All right, that may not be even a word, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Not every project is agileable. What I mean is, I'll again give you a simple analogy, right? The one I gave just some time back. It's very easy to understand with an analogy, I hope. So I would say when you're talking about construction companies, right? Let's take that example. If I want to build, if I want to construct a building, all right, can I say that, okay, I don't care how tall the building is. Let's go agile. Let's focus on the first 5 floors and do it well and then think about the rest later. Can you do that? No, you cannot, isn't it? You need to know everything about that building. You need to know how tall the building is. Are there 100 floors? Is there a swimming pool on top of the building? Is there, is there a helipad? Is there a slide which goes from the 100th floor to the 50th floor? Whatever it is, you need to know that before itself. That's because keeping all the constraints in mind, then only you will come up with a blueprint, then only you will come up with the foundation to keep the building strong. So you need to wear your waterfall hat for such projects. Okay. Having said that, now think about this. If the building structure is ready, okay, the building is ready, the structure of the building is ready, and now you know the constraints about that building. You know where the pillars are, you know where the elevator shaft is, you know where the electrical panels are, you know where the sewage line is going. If you know all this information, keeping these constraints in mind, can't you be agile with the interior design, right? Can't you say that, oh, this can be a 2-bedroom, this can be a 1-bedroom, this could be a studio, this could be a 3-bedroom. After some time, you would say that, you know what, okay, this 3-bedroom doesn't make sense. Let's convert this to a 2-bedroom and add 1 more bedroom. You can do that, especially in the, when we talk about North America, every houses, they are all, the walls are not made of brick and cement, and it's all, what do you call it? Whatever it is. Yeah. So it's easy to break it up and make a different room. It's very simple, right? And that is why we want to understand that you can be agile, keeping the constraints in mind. And this is where the hybrid model comes in. So not everything could be agile, but you always have to start thinking from an agile perspective. Can we do this in an agile fashion? If you start thinking from that perspective, then probably you will get more answers saying that, oh, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. And then you probably will go to a waterfall way of doing things. But at least you have to start thinking from an agile perspective. That's my take.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kumaresh.
Great. Okay, and okay, so Doug gave me a question. Can you please can you provide examples of epics at the portfolio level? So epics, okay, Doug. Analogy. I like analogies. So I'm just trying to think of an analogy right now. All right, Doug, this probably might help. Okay. Just let's imagine I own a pizza store. All right. And I have a vision in mind. I need to make a lot of money. Simple vision, right? Everyone has that vision, unfortunately. So I will call the board of directors and ask, our vision is to make a lot of money. Are we on track? And the board of directors will say, no, we are not on track. And then I will ask, okay, why? What's happening? What do we do to meet our vision? And then one of the board of directors will say, oh, you know what? We need to go digital. Oh, we don't have a digital presence, so we need to go digital. And I would say, fantastic, that's a great idea. So let's go digital. Now, when I say let's go digital, this is where I will come up with something called a strategic theme. That becomes our strategy, right? That becomes our strategy. Now, I will come call a board of directors, and again, I will ask them, okay, now that we have a strategy to go digital, can you come up with some ideas? What do you mean by digital? One person will say that, oh, we need to build an interactive website. Oh, that's a great idea. Let's build an interactive website. So that becomes an epic. Another person will say, let's build an app. Oh, beautiful. That becomes another epic, right? And the third person will say, oh, you know what? We need to build social media marketing. Oh, brilliant. That becomes an enabler, probably, right? I'm just talking about some. So what I'm saying is epics or these requirements which are massive. It's very difficult to know how long it's going to take to build it unless you break it into MVPs, which is minimum viable products. And then you start delivering the MVPs. That's when we will be able to estimate how big the epics. So that's Doug. Does that help? I believe you're still there. All right. Okay. Allison, how large is one agile release train? Okay, that's what we already discussed. 50 to 125 plus. Explain how safe epics are different than Jira epics. Again, that's what the idea is. In Jira epics, probably you can consider Jira epics to be same as the features, right? Because epics in Jira are divided or broken into stories. And similarly, features are broken into stories. So you can probably do a 1:1 correlation between Jira epics and features, but epics in safe is different, as I explained. What is an enabler? I already explained that. Hope you have that answer. How is CSM certification different than safe? Oh my God. CSM is easy. It's extremely easy. Anyone can pass CSM. Okay. But safe is building on the basic foundation of agile. It is building further up, saying that how the whole enterprise can be safe. Oh, sorry, how the whole enterprise can be agile. So it is much more deeper. It is much difficult as an exam. It's more difficult than CSM, but it is not as difficult as PMP. So in case you are PMP certified, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's not as difficult as PMP. It's not as easy as CSM. But if you attend, I keep conducting sessions. My focus on certifications and sessions is on the concepts. And I want to make sure the understanding is there, because without understanding, you will not be able to confidently answer the question. So if you have the understanding, it makes it very easy. Doesn't matter what kind of questions come in, you will be able to answer that. So that is going to be the focus. Okay. How lean product management is applied in SAFe? Lean product management. Lean is part of SAFe. That is why we call it a lean enterprise. We call it lean agile mindset. So everything what you talk about lean is part of SAFe. Okay, Mahendra, I hope that helps. Epics are broken down into features, or features are just, okay, Rajesh, so the question is epics can be broken down into capabilities. Capabilities are broken down into features. Features are broken down into stories. But if we don't have that solution layer, then epics are directly broken down into features, and features are broken down into stories. Okay, so that is how the flow goes. What is the difference between lean and agile? Okay, so thanks, Tuyen. Thank you for that question. The difference between lean and agile is this. Agile is a set of principles and practices. When we talk about a lot of agile practices, having multiple iterations, delivering value to the customers in small iterations. When we talk about lean, it's about reducing defects or removing defects. In agile, you can be agile and you can have multiple steps in an agile fashion. You can have multiple workflow items or steps in an agile environment. But every step you need to think, are there any what do you call it? Are there any delays? Are there anything is a waste? Can you improve that particular step? Is there a, when we call it, value added time and non-value added time? So any delay is considered non-value added time, right? And it's a waste. So we need to do something to either eliminate the waste or reduce the waste. And that's what lean is. See, physically, again, talking of analogy, physically, we want to be lean. What do? We go to the gym, right? And hopefully we work out. I don't know, I've seen some people, read a book in a gym. I don't know why they do that, but then you hopefully work out. When you work out, you remove something. You remove waste, which is your unwanted fat, which is waste. When you remove that, you become lean. So same applies to a process. When you look at the process, you look at every step of the process and try to identify waste and do something about it. Okay. All right. What is the success percentage of safe implementation? Oh my God. So if you go to scaledagile.com/case studies, you will come up with so many successful companies, companies who have successfully implemented SAFe. SAFe is fabulous. I'm really passionate about SAFe. Probably you can hear that in my words, in my tone as well. But the key is management support. If you don't have leadership support, if you don't have management support, doesn't matter how much you understand about SAFe, how you're applying SAFe. If you don't have leadership support, the whole agility will fall flat on its face, because that is the foundation. Leadership support is the foundation for success. Okay, so success percentage depends on the support that you get from leadership in applying SAFe and the right mindset you have. All right, so those were the questions. I hope I was able to answer the questions well. Anything else you would like to ask me? Feel free. I know we have gone beyond our time, but I'm here to answer any questions for 5 more minutes, maybe 5, 7, 10 minutes max. Okay. Any thoughts?
Kumaresh, it's Busa again.
Oh, sorry. Can I go? Mine is really quick, buddy. So
yes, go ahead.
Just a question. Would you be having these webinars on CI/CD or DevOps intro to people like us? Just how it's getting being integrated with SAFe and things like that. Anything coming up?
Yes, Sunil, we do that often. Send me an email, and then I will add you to that webinar, and I'll send you the link to those webinars. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
One of the webinars that we are having today is about DevSecOps. So I don't know how much we will not be able to go in depth on that, but that might be useful.
Is your email shared in the chat window, Kumaresh?
Yeah, I did. It's kumaresh29@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Kumaresh.
I'm always 29 years old. Remember that. So Kumaresh29.
you actually look 25, actually.
Thank you. Busa, yes, sir.
Thanks, Kumaresh. I just wanted to take you back to something that you touched on at the beginning of it.
There is a background noise. Can anyone else please put yourself on mute? I'm not able to hear Hello. Okay, I'll have to put everyone on mute, I believe. No, this is okay. Busa, yes.
All right, thanks, man. I think you. So I wanted to take you back to something that you mentioned at the beginning of your talk. which is with regards to digital transformation. So I think holistically as a strategy for a business, moving away from the traditional way of setting up the operating model is imperative. And therefore, my understanding is that this has to be part of the strategic planning for digital transformation. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to have a strategic planning for digital transformation. Yes.
Okay. And adopting SAFe is critical for that component that speaks to setting up the operating model.
Can you repeat the last part again? There was slight disturbance on that.
I was saying adopting SAFe is critical with regards to setting up the operating model.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, there are multiple scaling frameworks in the market today. Okay, but SAFe is one of the most popular because it helps with that transition. As you're talking about transition from waterfall to SAFe, right? Scaling. That transition makes it much easier using SAFe. It's very structured and it respects the people who have been working in the traditional way of doing things and keeping their keeping their process in mind. The transformation is designed.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, sure. And guys, this is the thing. In your company, if you want certain webinar just to introduce SAFe to your leadership, do let me know. Feel free to reach out. Okay.
Awesome, thanks, Kumaresh.
Perfect. All right. Anyone else? Any other questions? Feel free to keep in touch. Anyway, I hope this webinar was useful for you guys. There are a lot of takeaways. I wish I hope.
Con cần nghe chưa? 5 phút nữa không? Cái chừng 5 phút nữa thôi được không?
Tuyen, can you put yourself on mute, please? All right. Thank you.
Great, this is good. I also want to tell the attendees that we have a lot more webinars coming in the next 3 weeks with Kumaresh. So make sure you all attend. Those will be up on our website soon. Actually, the following 3 Wednesdays, which is the 22nd, 29th, and 5th of November, we have 3 upcoming webinars. Yeah, so do attend those as well.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Shruti. All right, I'm good. If you're good, thank you for your time, extending 30 more minutes. This has been good.
Yes, this was a great webinar. Thank you so much, Kumaresh. I think we're 30 minutes past time. Thanks for extending your time and actually taking so many questions and making it so interactive. It's always a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you, Shruti. Stay in touch and yeah, let us know if you have any questions. All right. Thank you.